Hey there, what's up? This is Mike Deary from rockguitarpower.com, and I am making a follow-up lesson to go over Asturias by Isaac Albanese. And today we're going to look at just the triplet part. And the reason I'm making this video is because I got a lot of questions and people asking about this from my initial lesson on it. And I recently had a comment by Lewis Taylor, I think that's how you pronounce it. He says, "Hiya mate, awesome stuff, helpful and professional. I was just wondering about the triplet part on the 2 strings. I failed to get my head around the logistics of that. I mean, I've read the tabs, etc., but don't understand fully what to do. Any advice at all? Cheers." So this one's definitely for Lewis, but everybody else out there, because it is probably the hardest part of this piece of music. It certainly was when I learned it. And we're going to really go into depth right now about just how to accomplish this technique, show you what I did to practice it slow and get it up to speed. But it's a ton of fun. So what I got going on is just my nylon here, and definitely what you need is a metronome. There's no doubt about it, you need a metronome. And the thing that I like most about this particular metronome, which is the Korg MA30, is that I could divide the beat into triplets, okay? This is going to be a little loud, but okay? So I have different beat settings that I could choose to do a quarter note click or a triplet. And the triplet's really important because that's what we're learning to do with this piece. So having a metronome or some form of beat that allows you to hear triplets is really, really helpful on this, okay? And I purposely have the volume of this metronome really high. It might be a little annoying, but it's to show you how you really need to interact with it and get things down. Okay, so let's jump in. The tempo of this, the goal tempo of this is probably between 170 and 190 beats per minute, which is pretty darn fast, especially for triplets. But again, we're going to start super slow, like around 40, okay? Now, before I use the metronome, let's talk about what happens. So this piece of music, it goes from playing just eighth notes, and by the way, this is in 3/4 time. It goes from the melody doing eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and, okay? And then it's going to go here, and then now this part moves to triplets. You could hear it about 30 seconds into the piece of music, depending who plays it and how fast they're going, but around 30 seconds this technique comes into play. And what's happening is that you are playing a melody note. Okay, there's my melody that happens, and I'm doing it with my thumb. Another important note, you really got to make sure you have nails and grown properly to really do this well. Again, everything is very minute and picky when it comes to doing this technique well. So make sure you have your nails good. You want them to slide off just at the right point. You don't want them too long. At least I never found that having them long helped me because they would get caught. So we have our melody note. Okay. Now the triplet, the other 2 notes of the triplet are open B and then B on the 7th string. Now this is the same exact note, same pitch, same octave, but what it's doing is mimicking how you would normally do a triplet, like that. If I were just to do 2 notes on the B string, okay, that would be the same thing, and it goes to that after this, right there. But it's easier, I found, to do triplets on the same string, but what's tricky about this is that we're playing 1 note on the B string, 1 note on the E string, and I'm going to use my index finger on the B string and my middle finger on the E string. Now, starting very, very slow, what I'm going to work on doing, let me move to this view a little bit so you can see these 2 fingers. So what's really important to start off with, I'm going to almost use a rest stroke to start off with. Not in terms of playing, I don't rest into the next string. However, both fingers are pushing into the string a little bit so I could really feel where it's at. Now when I do this, you can see that I play the 2 notes, but it is a free stroke. Now, when you start off at slow tempos, you're going to feel each finger move individually, like this, okay? And everything needs to be small, precise movements. As you get faster and faster with this, it's too fast to be sloppy, so you'll refine your movements as you go. But what I do when I start off at slow tempos is that I could feel each finger move. Now the trick is when I really get up to tempo, you're almost going to move in one motion like this. Okay, if you see my fingers, they're going to go like this. We'll get to that. But starting slow, I'm going to set my metronome to 40 beats per minute. And I'm going to have it divided into triplets so I could hear each triplet. So let's do that. So here's... Okay, so this is 40 beats per minute at triplets. Triplet, triplet. So the first thing you want to do is just memorize this whole sequence. Okay, memorize that first before anything. Now, when I hit the metronome, I'm going to go very slow and make sure every note is dead on with that click. Okay, so another tip. I play these two notes and my fingers are kind of resting up in the air. Now right when I'm ready to play them again, I go to use my thumb. Now when I play the note with my thumb, you'll see that these two fingers go right back into resting on the strings and almost pulling in, because I want to feel that tension for them ready to play the note, okay? So very slow, both fingers are down, and then I play them. I use my thumb, and then again, these fingers go right back into that rest position. You need to do this at this slow tempo. Everything you're going to do, you're going to get exact at these slow tempos. Then going faster, it's just going faster, okay? So if you can't do this perfectly at 40 beats per minute, don't try to go to 50, 60, 70 or higher. Gotta perfect this slow. There's too many small things going on. So again, okay, and at slow tempos, don't worry about moving everything at once. Feel every note and get your volumes very consistent. That's another very important thing about this. You know, to really get this awesome, you do want to have control over making the triplets lower in volume and bringing them up, but that's way more advanced. You get to that when you really work on the emotion of playing this. Right now we're working on the technical side, so don't worry about that. So I'm working on nice and consistent notes, getting the volume consistent, and just feeling how everything feels out. If you need to go slower than 40, go for it. When you hear the triplet beat, it really helps to keep you engaged. If I just do a quarter note, well, let's do this. Oops, don't want to do that. So let's go to a quarter note and see how this feels. So this is very slow. Triplet, triplet. It's harder to hear, but okay, I can still do it, but it's, again, having those triplets in there makes everything a lot easier. So now let's go back to triplets and let's bump it up a bit. Let's go up to 50 beats per minute. And you can see that my hand makes very, very small motions. Everything here in my wrist and my arm is not moving at all. It's only in my fingers. When you really get this up to tempo like 170, you don't have time to move anything else. You got to keep very slow, and the movements are very exact. So now let me bump it up to 60. But when you're doing this in these slower tempos, just go up any interval that's comfortable for you, whether it's 3 beats per minute, 5 beats, whatever. You need to make sure that everything sounds consistent and sounds exact and that your hand gets comfortable with the technique, okay? So now let's get up to 60. Make sure the other tricky thing is that these two notes get ringing out. Another thing to start doing at this tempo, because around 60 you could start feeling the energy, you could hear the melody and hear things come together. You want to start breaking each part out, meaning you want to play just the melody and then just the 2 pedal tones on the beat, okay? This is how that'll sound. Let's do just the melody first. Triplets. Okay, and as I do these triplets, you can see how my hand kind of jumps up and then right back down. Oops. Okay, by breaking apart the melody and the pedal tones, you're really going to, again, get your mind to hear each part, because when you're going up to speed, you don't have time to think or hear things, you just play. But right now I'm programming my brain to really hear these 2 parts come out and come together really well, okay? So when you're starting off, again, 40 beats per minute or so, use triplets, and then just start working your way up, okay? You'll probably hit a wall at some point, and that's when you really got to just start pushing through it and not worrying if it doesn't sound great. But I'm going to now move a little bit quicker through some of these tempos. So let's jump up to 80. Okay, good. So right around, let's get up to 100, and right around 100, it almost starts getting annoying to work with the triplets, and that's where we're going to jump back to quarter notes. But here's how it sounds at 100. Okay, now now that we're starting to get up there, I could start feeling these 2 fingers become one motion. Okay, so instead of going bump, 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 it's like bump, 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 bump. It's just more refined. Let's jump down to quarter notes, though. Okay, and at this point, triplet, 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 triplet. It's easier to feel those beats. I could hear my melody nice and loud, connecting with the clicks. But I could also, I'm still at a slow enough tempo where I could hear the triplets. Triplet, triplet, triplet. Okay? So much of playing this well is just knowing the way it's going to sound like in your head and getting your fingers to do it. But it's a very slow process of working that metronome slowly, okay? Now let's jump up to 120. Again, it's going to start feeling and sounding a little robotic, but that's fine. That's what we want. You need to be dead on tight with these rhythms here, okay? And right around 120, you know, you're going to really start feeling things come together and hearing things. At whatever point it becomes tricky, you know, you just take it slow, jump down to 100, get it perfect, go past 120, okay? Jump to 130, 140. 135, whatever. It's going to sound crappy at first, but you got to work through it, and all you're looking to do is connect with it for maybe 1 or 2 bars. If that's all you get, you'll start hearing it. Every time I go to a new tempo, what I do is listen to hear in my head how is it going to sound before I even play it. So if I jump up to 140 now, triplet, 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 triplet. You know, in my head, I'm hearing that melody and hearing how it's going to sound. Here's how it sounds when you play along to it at 140. All right, and what's critical at these tempos now is not to lose control over the triplet, okay? In other words, it's very easy for me to do something like, and just get totally sloppy, okay? I want to hear triplet, 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 okay? So again, those are the things you kind of want to listen for as you're doing this. So now let me just jump up to tempo and you could start seeing and hearing this thing come together. So let's move up to 160. I like performing this around 170, 175. To me, 190 is just so darn fast. But let's get up to 160. We'll get to that part in a second. Now, the other thing that I really like to make sure that I do when I'm playing this is make sure you can go from the intro part, that's eighth notes, into the triplets smoothly. Another very important part because you're changing techniques totally. In other words, the trick is you do not want to lose track of the melody. The melody stays exactly the same whether you're doing eighth notes or triplets. See what I mean? So when I move from eighth notes to triplets, I need to hear that melody exact. Let's hear how it sounds at 160. Okay, so there it is there, a nice and smooth transition. So now I'm going to jump it up to 175. This is where I like to perform it. And it took me months to get it at this point. So be patient and work slow. Work at your own pace, but make sure you hear and track your progress, okay? So here's 175. Sloppy, coming in from the intro. Okay, and at this tempo you can see how now these two fingers are pretty much just going like this. But because I've worked my way up nice and even, it goes triplet, 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 all right? And even at this tempo, you want to see if you could break apart the melody and the pedal tones. In other words, so that's, again, it's going to give you the confidence that you know you have control over the two parts, okay? So that's basically the process that I use to get that part down. It's tricky, but it's so much fun when you get it because it's one of those really advanced techniques. And that technique goes through to the rest of this whole section. The next part after you get to these, you know, you're going to triplets on the same note, where you got your melody, but your triplets happen on the B string. Okay, which is a little bit easier. I'm not going to go into that right now. However, the triplets on the adjacent strings come back in after that next section where, let's see. Still on the same string. So this section, again, now I'm going back to doing the triplets on the adjacent strings. And for this section, it's the same process. This alternates between doing it on the B and E string to the G and E string. So it's tricky at first because you really got to change your fingers and get used to the technique almost all over again. But it's the same process for it all. Okay, good. So let me just play this whole intro and then I'm going to be done with this whole lesson. Hopefully that helped you out. Definitely check out rockguitarpower.com for lessons like this and everything else, as well as the YouTube channel where you might be watching this now, youtube.com/rockguitarpower. All right, so here's the whole intro at 175. Cool. So there it is, Asturias by Leyenda, or I'm sorry, Asturias by Isaac Albanese, focusing on those triplets. Practice slow, work your way up. If you have more questions, send them in, and I'll try to keep the videos coming. So again, check out rockguitarpower.com. Sign up even if it's as a free member, and I'll keep in tune and keep in touch with this and other great lessons. This is Mike Deary. We'll see you soon.